In this video, I'm going to show you how to attach all of the power lines into common buses. So before, when you mounted the ESCs, you brought the power leads through these holes. So you can see that there's red wires. Those are all going to be soldered together. And there's black wires that'll all be soldered together. This is the positive and negative 12 volt bus for the system. Additionally, we're going to need to route 12 volts around to the other side. And so we're going to do that with these purple wires. It's leftover motor lead wire and battery wire that you got a coil of. So that's going to loop around to the other side. And then we're also going to have a wire that comes from the power bus and goes into the Molex connector. So to start out, we're just going to want to strip all of these. And I've already done that for 2 of these, but basically you can use an auto stripper. You probably want it to be a little bit longer than that actually. You probably want it to be, I don't know, like so, about 1 centimeter long. So strip that for all of these. If you don't have an auto stripper like this, you can just use a knife. Be careful not to nick too many of the interconducting wires. So let me just finish that up really quick. Definitely recommend auto strippers. They make things really easy. So there's kind of a trick to this. If you've ever soldered a bunch of wires together before, you'll know it can be really challenging unless you have a way of holding them all together, because with a bunch of wires going into one node, it's easier for the whole thing to fall apart. So the trick for that, I'll show you that now. What you want to do is cut off about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 centimeters of wire, or maybe, I don't know, this is like 5 centimeters, 6. And then you just strip the whole thing so you end up with a raw stranded wire. You want to do this with stranded wire. What we're going to do is we're going to take one strand of the wire and wrap it around all the others that we're going to use. So with my auto stripper, I'm just kind of making a bunch of little cuts so I can pull all these bits off. It's kind of a trick, but it's not too hard to do. One more. This one's being feisty. There we go. So now I have all the stranded wire, and I'm just going to pull out a few of them. And actually I have to strip and prepare the other wires too, so I'm just going to set these aside. But this is what you want. Just to ruin the suspense, what you're going to do when you have the other wires in is you're going to wrap this around so that they're all attached, and then you can solder them. Before we do any of that, we're going to want to tin these, but we might break that up into different segments of the video. So anyway, this is where you're at now. Like I mentioned before, we're going to want wires that go from the 12 volt bus and then loop to where the cape's going to be, coming from positive and from negative. We didn't include red and black wire. We only included one color of wire. So you can use this. You just have to be very careful that even though it's not labeled positive or negative, that you don't get the polarity switched. Alternatively, if on your own you have hookup wire, like we've got hookup wire like this, that's obviously a lot better because you can keep red with red and black with black. But I've done it both ways. If you're careful, you can just use the one color. Instead of measuring these exact lengths, what I like to do is just cut kind of a little bit too long. We have extra wire. Just cut these to about 20 or 25 centimeters, but that'll be longer than you need, and then later on we can cut it back. So I'm going to cut 4 of these wires, 2 that are going to go to the cape, positive and negative, and 2 that are going to be supplying power to the whole system. They're going to plug into the Molex connector here and then loop and provide these nodes power. So 1, 2, 3. I knew that actually I got a kind of scrap piece here that was short, so I brought another wire that I have right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now you've got these. Again, I didn't really measure them specifically, but you can see that they're long enough to make it to the other side of the board, or long enough to plug into the Molex connector. I'm just going to strip these. So there's going to be 2 going to the positive and 2 going to the negative. Oops. Doing okay here. So those were 2, let's say those are 2 for the positive, here's 2 for the negative. Okay, so the next step is that we're going to tin all of these, and I'll probably do that off video, but before I do that, I'm just going to kind of give you a preview of what we'll do in the next video. Basically, the big idea is that we're going to, after these are all tinned, we're going to bundle them together. We're going to take one of these single strands from the stripped wire, wrap it around the whole thing so that they're all bunched together, and then we're gonna just solder the heck out of this thing. We'll probably inject even more solder to the whole bundle. And then after that's done, we're gonna put a piece of shrink tubing over the top of it. And then we'll do the same thing for the negative. But so now what I'm gonna do is start tinning all of these. Instead of showing you the entire thing, I'll tin one, I guess, in this video, just so you kind of know what it's like. If you haven't tinned wire before, it's really not too hard to do. It's always good though to tin wires before you solder them together. It'll just make them bond better. So just kind of reminding you of soldering tips here. Soldering tips, get it? You want to put a little bit of glob of solder on the iron. That's going to allow you to transfer heat to the wire. And then you don't actually put the solder directly to the iron. Now you're heating the wire with that glob of solder, and you kind of just want to get this nice bead that goes down. With this really fine stranded wire, it sometimes takes a while for the whole thing to heat up. So you can kind of start, but now you can see I'm applying solder to the wire, not to the soldering iron. And you can kind of like run it, I like to run it along just to make sure it's even. So that's a tinned wire. So do that for all of these and for all of these, and we'll see you in the next video. Yay. Cool.